maybe we'll start with Greg, just since we're fresh off of his.
Still fresh on Greg, yeah.
So I see all those pictures up there, and they all look like really good. Like my smartphone, I don't think works that well.
Yeah.
So are there like, if someone takes a crappy photo of something, can you still use it?
Yeah, so the way that it basically works is you upload this photo to the website, and then other people can go on and confirm the ID of that. And so let's say it's kind of a junky photo, and you can't quite tell. Like it's a photo of, let's say it's like, you can tell it's a snake, but you have no idea which snake it is. Well, then you can just identify it as a snake. And so that's not going to be that useful to people, but it's not the end of the world, right? And so, but if someone just wants to know, like, oh, now that's very exciting. They're like, oh, there's snakes in this particular area. Like, maybe that is all it's going to tell you.
So is there, any photo of any animal is something
any
that
animal,
could
plant,
be...
fungi, whatever. Yep.
Okay.
Even if I took a picture of like a cockroach in a basement, would that still be interesting?
I mean, somebody it might be interesting, right? I mean, the thing is, like, you're like, oh, it's a cockroach, right?
Right.
But what if it turns out it's a species of cockroach that's never been seen in California before, right?
Oh,
That's wait. He's describing the plot of Arachnophobia from the 1990s. The scientist took the thing and it went in the luggage, and then the whole town watched this movie.
Yeah, it's David Duchovny in it?
No, it's
David Arquette.
David Arquette. Yeah, it says David.
Jeff Daniels.
Oh, right. Oh, I'm thinking of an eight-legged bird.
Oh,
But
yeah.
actually, but if you think about it, like all those species that I talked about, like just showing up here, right? So that was a coqui frog, the Taiwan wall lizard, an Indo-Pacific gecko, and I think of the Brahminy blindstone. They're basically doing
Wait, what's it called?
a Brahminy blindstone.
Fuck, that's good. That's a cool name.
It's also known as the flower pot snake because the main way they get transported around is they're in the soil of nursery plants getting moved around. So like I think it's been a long time since I saw Arachnophobia. They didn't intentionally.
Let's talk.
No, the spider was in his luggage.
No, it was in a coffin, I thought.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
So, but like as things get moved around, lots of animals are hitching rides, we call them stowaways or hitchhikers, hitching rides on that material. And so, you get a shipment of banana plants from somewhere, and there might very well be a gecko on the pallet underneath that, and there might be, some spiders in the banana plants themselves, and those might not get detected by the Department of Ag, and so all of a sudden they show up. And that's exactly what happened with every single one of those species that you see.
Is that like one of the behaviors of like an urban exploiter?
Exactly. So those are.
Stow away.
Yeah. So every single one of those species that you saw, a lot of the things that we think of as urban exploiters tend to be. A lot of them are introduced species. So like the coqui frog, for example, does really well in urban places because there's so much water there. Some of these species of geckos are showing up and they're doing well because they like the structures of buildings. Everyone here in the last week has probably seen a squirrel, but none of us probably saw a native squirrel. We all probably saw the eastern fox squirrel, which was introduced in the early 1800s. So a lot of these things that do really well in urban places tend to be non-natives. Don't always.
You actually, I don't know if it's a non-native, but you had a good example of like not stowaways, but
Yeah, basically,
urban.
can we go
Oh,
back
let's
to
see.
my
Let me
slide?
see if I can try to go to it. All right, we gotta go back.
Who here has seen Oliver and Company? Clap if you've seen that movie.
The film.
Yes. All right. Cool. We discussed the presentations beforehand, and no one on this side of the stage had seen that film, and I felt very dumb bringing it up. But it'll be for those of you who have seen it, you'll see how it's relevant.
All right.
I wanted the power.
Oh, yeah.
Whoa. Here we go. All right. So, I feel like there's this really interesting thing that we don't know. It's not commonly known about dogs, which is that most dogs are not little pet dogs that you have in your home. They're actually free-range dogs. Outnumber our little cookies and Baxters who live inside our homes. So they've been domesticated for about 15,000 years, but 83% of them are unrestrained. That doesn't mean they're feral. They could be village dogs, they could be tame, but they're just free range. And so in Moscow alone, there's 35,000 stray dogs. And for a little bit of perspective, in all of Russia, there's 50,000 wolves. So a small group of these stray dogs have learned to ride the subway. They have been studied by 40 stray dogs who have learned to navigate the subway. They know when to get off on their stop. They've also noticed that these stray dogs that have lived, these are the domesticated species of dogs, but they've lived without human guidance for so long that they've actually started to come back with some of the more wolf-like traits. So greater intelligence, pack structure, and even some physiological things like their pelts are losing the characteristic domesticated dog spotted coats. There's actually this cool experiment that take too long to get into too much, but like Russians have domesticated foxes, their ears get floppy, their coats get spotty, they look like little puppies, they're very cute. So there are three types of these subway exploiters. They're the dogs who just live in the subway because it's warm, lots of people give them food and attention. There are dogs who just use the subway to get around. They're lazy, they don't want to walk, so they hop on and get somewhere else. But then the third group, which is by far the funniest, is the dogs who use the subway to commute from the suburbs into the city to go busk for treats and belly rubs.
That makes me so sad that even non-human animals have to do the daily grind. I think the dog's just sitting there like with its coffee like, yeah man, work, right?
And to be clear, so they're making use of public transport, but are they taxpayers? No? It upsets me, I just don't like tax avoidance.
They're taxpayers. It's a fun.
Oh,
Anyways,
yeah.
So this video,
Well, that's a video of a squirrel.
yeah, this is a video of a squirrel. It should be a video of
There we go.
the dog.
Cute fucking dog.
It's not go though. Whoa, whoops, I pressed the wrong button.
Well, I'll just...
Here, wait, it's back. No. Oh, hang on.
God, you guys are really hungry for this video.
Alright, well,
Right?
eventually this video is going to show a dog get on a subway. But right now it's showing a couple of Russian guys talking probably.
No, they're English.
Oh.
No, even more exciting. Does anybody have any questions for any of our guests while we wait on this dog riding a subway video? Angela.
Yeah, for the historian. So how do you, when you're getting your geographical data, how do you control for the types of people that live in certain areas? So like, for example, in like a college town, maybe a professor assigns his students to be participatory in this, and then you get a lot of hits in that one town. Like, how do you control for that sort of thing?
Yeah, so like how do we control for spatial biases?
Yes.
That's what we're trying to get at. Yeah, so you basically...
Sure. Yeah, I mean, that's spatial, I was going to ask about the spatial bias.
Yeah, it's a common...
Let's hold your feet to the fire.
It's a common question. The real answer is that we don't have a great way to deal with it.
Why is it a problem?
So it's a problem because you might end up with lots of observations in one particular neighborhood, very few observations in another neighborhood, and those tend to be correlated with socioeconomics. And so then what? So then
Okay, so like there's like alligator lizards doing it more and like
No. So the people who are making so the number of people making observations is strongly correlated with socioeconomics. And so what ends up happening is that in neighborhoods that have sort of lower socioeconomic status, there tends to be way fewer observations. And so you don't want to make inferences based on neighborhoods that have like very different things going on. You don't want to use inferences from there to think about what's going on in neighborhoods that have probably like very different amounts of water on the landscape, very different number of trees planted, very different amounts of shrubs.
Also, rich people just have a lot of free time to watch lizards. It's like
That's actually, so there's multiple things going on, right? So it's like, it is the case that for basically every citizen science study ever done, that what we tend to see is that it's like people who are like higher socioeconomic status, oftentimes retired, interestingly enough, oftentimes women, are the most common people who are participating in some of these programs.
that's
We're
my
not seeing
retirement
that.
goal, just like
Yeah.
watching lizards.
We don't see it as much in LA. Like that's what we tend to see with most.
Because LA retirees have another sort of thing to do.
It's because they all
with their
left.
free
Like they're like, I can sell my house for $8 million and then buy a ranch in Montana, right? So I think they all leave. So yeah, what we try to do is actually then we try to recruit people to participate in these programs from neighborhoods where we have big gaps in our sampling. So that's the strategy we have right now to try to get better sampling in those areas. But the reality is like there's no biodiversity survey ever done that doesn't have like significant
Definitely.
bias one way or another.
Definitely. But that's so cool that you're trying to get more people involved. It's awesome.
It's kind of like charging like Lime scooters, right?
I am really excited to see where
No, I'm
you go.
just saying, from what I understand, you have the scooters on the street, and if you
Right.
take them home and charge them, you get $5. And so this whole economy of younger kids, maybe from less privileged households,
Right.
who are kind of gathering up and making a little quick cash. So perhaps we could apply that model. Again, I
I
don't
would
know what the
actually
fuck
wonder.
you're talking about.
I bet the neighborhoods that have large use of a scooter also probably, with this technology enabled, probably also have good use of financial uses.
I will say, I run a show in Westwood on Thursdays. I saw a mass theft of bird scooters. These like 3 teenagers, they had like maybe like 30 of them on the sidewalk, just stuffing them into a minivan. And I was like, what are you guys doing? Like, oh yeah, we know how to get rid of the tractor. And I was like, just stuffing it full. So yeah, maybe $5 or just steal them.
Yeah, invading alligators.
But we got the video.
Is the dog video working now?
Yes, it is.
Oh.
Yay! Oh no. Fast forward.
This is a long video.
About 4
Yeah.
minutes in,
Okay.
I think. Is the dog? No.
No.
His concentration died.
There he
He's on the train. Aww.
Okay.
Wasn't it worth it? Look, and he's just getting off. They just like get off on their side. Yeah.
They're quite clever.
Yeah.
How do animals learn that though? How do they learn that like the stop is like that part of?
Well, it's
The
interesting. It could be related. There's this study done with rats that found that they could memorize where the location of doors were just based on the number of footsteps they took relative to where they started. So sometimes it can be like relative, like maybe they hear the voice going like let's just stop whatever, but in Russian, so it's like this is stop whatever. And then it's like they know there's like 5 of those, and then they get off in the city and they're all giving them goulash or. I'm half Russian, I can do that.
I was like, wow, that's a lot of stereotypes.
Yeah.
Do we have any more questions?
Yes, we have time for 2 more questions.
My question was about adapters and exploiters. So like, for the exploiters, are they like cool with humans, or is it like they're just exploiting our nice?
I hate seagulls, so that.
Well, no, but like,
But it's
you
not
know,
about, are you cool with seagulls? Are they cool with us?
so,
Alright,
but
sorry.
like, you know, like I don't. It's there's always like this idea that when you see like a cute, like I don't know, a cute little furry animal, and you're like, oh, I want to be friends with it, but it's like, oh, maybe that's
You
not
shouldn't,
cool.
because you could get rabies, but
Oh.
I mean, it depends on the animal. So like, there are a lot of squirrels, like college squirrels love people because they go up to them, they get very unhealthy food. It's not good for them, like their health, but they do enjoy getting donuts from humans. So there's, I think, a difference between like, are people good for them as a species versus like, they are like seagulls, they love people who go to the beach, but then like, they'll eat like 2 Big Macs at once and choke to death. So mixed bag. I don't know.
I would say the vast majority of urban exploiters are things that are not the things that we're all thinking about, right? It's things like insects.
Yeah.
So it's spiders, insects, things that are fairly small. And that's the vast majority of those species. So it's not like they like people. It's just that there are aspects of the urban habitat that allow them to really evolve. Unlike, like, yes, the squirrels like people. But like coyotes are urban exploiters.
Right.
But it's not that they like people. They just like that we put out our cats to keep them.
They even come with a little dinner bell.
Yeah, so that way you can locate them.
So I have one last question. So for Greg, is there anything next on your list that you're really excited about?
Oh yeah,
Projects or-
yeah. The exciting thing that I've got coming up is there's this book that's coming out in mid-March. This is called Wild LA. It's by I'm an author, and there's a couple other authors from the National History Museum. It's like if you're interested in nature in LA, or think you might be interested in nature in LA, it's a great sort of introduction to.
This is a big deal because scientists dream about writing books. This is
Writing scientific papers and then sometimes get forced to write books. That's what actually happens.
Yeah, we handed out the flyer at the beginning. What does that
And then, for those of you who are like, oh, this is like citizen science, naturalist thing, sounds kind of fun. These are just some flyers that I grabbed. Apparently, it's like the end of the print run, something horrible. But if you're interested in that, these are ones that are just for my particular project. But we have a ton of projects at the Natural History Museum. We have multiple researchers who use these to publish scientific papers. And so, it doesn't matter if it's reptile or amphibian. We have projects on squirrels, we have projects on snails and slugs. We actually have an analysis that we're doing right now that has 60,000 observations across the LA area that's trying to inform how we can make LA a place that's like friendlier to native and desirable species. So it's like all of those observations, you're like, no one's going to care about this spider. It's like, no, it's probably in our analysis.
Oh, wow.
Katie, do you also, yeah.
Do I have something to promote?
Yes.
Myself?
Yeah.
Yes. You can check out my podcast. It's called Creature Feature. It's on the iTunes iPod thing. It's pretty much anywhere you get your podcast, and I am contractually obligated to tell you that it's also on the iHeartRadio app. You can follow me on Twitter. I'm at ProBirdRights. Yes, I'm a fan. Or at Kitty Goldin. And please do check out. You can't look at a podcast. You have to listen to it. I've learned it's an audio medium.
Basically it is. Right? Yeah.
Oh, sure. If you went to the show tonight and you like the space, you like the vibe, you didn't like the science as much, you can go, and you really like me, you can go to a show I host. You probably saw it on the splash page. It's Laugh With Us, first Friday of the month here at the Ruby. It's all stand-up. Quick hour, great way to start your Friday night. And we're back on March 1st, so come check us out.
All right. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you guys. On Twitter at Science the Show. Follow us on Instagram at Science the Show.
We're actually gonna change the name, so this is so much more confusing.
Yeah, just get it while it's hot, guys. All right, thank you so much.